The first alien signal reached Earth on a Tuesday morning. Commander John Mitchell was drinking coffee in the control room of the Lunar Defense Station when the computer started beeping. "Commander, you need to see this," said Science Officer Olivia Reyes. Her eyes were wide as she pointed at the screen. John walked over and looked at the data. Strange patterns filled the display. These weren't random space noises. This was a message. "Is it really them?" he asked. "Aliens." Olivia nodded. "Yes, sir. First contact." Within hours, scientists around Earth worked to decode the signal. It seemed friendly. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Empire. They wanted to meet humans in peace. The United Earth government met in an emergency session. Everyone agreed. This was the most important moment in human history. They needed to send their best people. Ambassador William Carter was chosen to lead the meeting team. He had ended 3 wars on Earth through talking, not fighting. With him went 20 diplomats, scientists, and military officers. They would represent all of Earth. Sofia Garcia was the youngest person picked for the team. She was a communications expert who knew 6 Earth languages. Now she would try to learn an alien one. "This is a great honor," she told her parents before leaving. "Don't worry about me. This is what I trained for." 3 days later, the Imperial ship arrived. It was huge and silver, like a giant needle pointing down at Earth. It stopped just above the moon and waited. Earth sent up a small welcome ship. Ambassador Carter wore his best suit. Everyone was nervous but excited. Humans were about to join a galactic community. The Imperial ship opened its docking bay. The human ship landed inside. Carter and his team walked out, smiling and ready to make history. Admiral Gregory Hunt of the Galactic Empire greeted them. He was tall and blue-skinned with 4 arms. He bowed slightly. "Welcome, humans," he said through a translation device. "We have watched your world for some time. You have developed quickly." Carter stepped forward. "We are honored to meet you and hope to learn from your advanced civilization." The meeting room was large with windows showing the stars. Everyone sat at a round table. Carter began his prepared speech about peace and friendship. Admiral Hunt interrupted him. "Your species is very interesting to us," he said. "You fight many wars, but also create beautiful art. You destroy parts of your planet, but also try to save it. You are unpredictable." Carter nodded. "Yes, we are still growing as a civilization. We have much to learn." "Unpredictable things are dangerous," Hunt said. His voice became cold. "The Empire prefers order." Hunt pressed something on his wrist. Doors slid open. Armed soldiers entered the room. "What's happening?" Carter asked, standing up. "The Empire has existed for 50,000 years," Hunt said. "We maintain peace through control. Your species cannot be controlled. You change too quickly. You adapt too well." The soldiers raised their weapons. "We can work together," Carter shouted. "Please." The soldiers fired. Blue light flashed across the room. The human delegation fell. Some tried to run. Others tried to fight. Nothing worked. Sofia Garcia was checking translation equipment in a small side room when she heard the screams. She hid inside a maintenance shaft in the wall. Through a small crack, she watched her friends die. When the shooting stopped, Admiral Hunt spoke to his soldiers. "Prepare the battle fleet. Earth must be contained before they spread to other systems." After the Imperials left the room, Sofia crawled out. Everyone was dead. With shaking hands, she activated her recording device. She had caught everything. Hunt's words, the massacre, the Empire's plans. Somehow, she got back to the human ship. An autopilot system returned her to Earth. She landed with the terrible news and the recording. Earth had just 3 months to prepare before the Imperial battle fleet would arrive. Humanity's first meeting with aliens had ended in blood. The next one would too. The Imperial fleet arrived exactly 3 months after the massacre. 80 huge warships appeared beyond the moon. Their metal hulls gleamed in the sunlight. Each one was bigger than the largest city on Earth. Admiral Catherine Powell stood on the bridge of Earth's largest defense ship. She was 52 years old with gray hair and a scar across her cheek from the Arctic War. She had never lost a battle on Earth, but this was different. "They outnumber us 5-1, said her second-in-command. "Their technology is at least 100 years ahead of ours." Powell nodded but didn't look worried. "We're not fighting a normal war," she said. "We're fighting for survival. Traditional rules don't apply." Powell had spent the last 3 months studying old Earth wars where smaller forces beat larger ones. She learned about guerrilla tactics, surprise attacks, and using the environment as a weapon. She had a plan. "Send the message to all ships," she ordered. "Operation Scattered Seed begins now." Across the solar system, hundreds of colony ships filled with civilians started their engines. They would escape in all directions while the defense fleet kept the Empire busy. The Imperial ships moved toward Earth. They fired their first shots at the moon bases. Explosions lit up the lunar surface. "They took the bait," Powell said. "Now for Phase 2. Lieutenant Ryan Miller had been a mining engineer before joining the defense fleet. He knew how to break things. He had planted special bombs on thousands of asteroids. Now he pressed the button. The asteroids exploded into millions of pieces. A cloud of rocky debris spread across the space between Mars and Earth. The Imperial ship's sensors couldn't see through it. Their advanced navigation systems started failing. "They're slowing down," reported the sensor officer. "Their formation is breaking up." Powell smiled. "Begin attack pattern Delta." Earth's smaller, more maneuverable ships darted through the debris field. They attacked the confused Imperial vessels from multiple directions. They couldn't destroy the big alien ships, but they could damage them. The Battle of Mars lasted 2 days. Human ships used the red planet's moons as hiding places. They struck quickly, then disappeared. 5 Imperial ships were badly damaged. Admiral Powell knew they couldn't win, but they could delay. Every hour meant more colony ships escaping to deep space. The worst came at Jupiter. The Empire tried to trap the human fleet near the gas giant. But Powell had studied Jupiter's radiation belts. She ordered her ships to fly where the radiation was strongest. "Our ships can handle 10 minutes in the belts," she told her captains. "Their fancy systems will fail in 2." She was right. When the Imperial ships followed, their computers failed. 3 enemy vessels crashed into each other. It was the Empire's first real defeat. But the victory didn't last. The Imperial admiral learned from his mistakes. He stopped chasing human ships and turned toward Earth. "They're starting orbital bombardment," Ryan Miller reported. His voice shook as he watched the screens. Great beams of energy shot down from Imperial ships. Cities burned. The oceans boiled where the beams hit water. Millions died in the first hour. Powell watched with tears in her eyes, but her plan was working. The colony ships were getting away. Humanity would survive, even if Earth didn't. "Send the final message to all escaping ships," she ordered. "Remember Earth. Remain hidden. Rebuild. Return." Her own ship was hit next. As the bridge exploded around her, Powell saw the confirmation. Over 200 colony ships had escaped detection. They carried the seeds of humanity to the stars. The Empire had won the battle for Earth, but they had made a terrible mistake. They hadn't destroyed humanity. They had scattered it across the galaxy, like seeds in the wind. And one day, those seeds would grow. 5 years passed since Earth burned. Humanity survived in the dark corners of space. They never stayed in one place too long. They became nomads among the stars. Fleet Admiral Peter Dawson commanded the largest human battle group. 27 ships traveled together under his leadership. A carrier ship Vengeance was his home now. It had once been a colony ship, but engineers had turned it into a warship. Dawson stood by the main window, looking at the stars. His beard had grown long. His eyes looked tired. "Admiral, Captain Bennett has returned," said his aide. Lisa Bennett was the best spy in what remained of humanity. She led small, fast ships that gathered information about the Empire. Her team took big risks to learn enemy secrets. She walked onto the bridge. Her uniform was dirty. She looked tired but excited. "We found something important," she said. She placed a small device on the table. "Imperial communication codes. Current ones." Dawson's eyes widened. "How did you get these?" "We captured a small Imperial messenger ship. The pilot didn't have time to destroy the codes." This was the break they had been waiting for. With these codes, humans could listen to Imperial messages. They could know where enemy ships would be before they arrived. "Get Dr. Ward up here," Dawson ordered. Nathan Ward was a scientist who studied Imperial technology. He was thin with messy hair and always had tools in his pockets. He arrived quickly and examined the device. "I can use this," he said, smiling. "Their shield systems use the same frequencies as their communications. This might help us find a way through their defenses." For the first time in years, Dawson felt real hope. Humans had been fighting a losing war. They could run and hide, but they couldn't hurt the Empire in any meaningful way. Until now. 3 days later, something unexpected happened. Sensors detected an unknown ship approaching the human fleet. It wasn't Imperial. Its design was completely different. "Should we run?" asked the bridge officer. Dawson considered it. Running was always safer, but curiosity won. "No. Let's see who they are." Battle stations, just in case. The alien ship stopped at a safe distance. It sent a message in several languages. The last one was English. "We seek the humans who fight the Empire. We wish to talk." Dawson decided to meet them, but carefully. He took a small shuttle with armed guards. Captain Bennett came too, along with Dr. Ward. The aliens called themselves the Valhari. They had blue skin with patterns of light that moved across it. Their leader's name translated as Pathfinder. "Your species is new to us," Pathfinder said. "The Empire has ruled the galaxy for 50,000 years. Few dare to fight them." "They attacked us without reason," Dawson said. "We fight because we must." Pathfinder nodded. "The Empire fears what they cannot control. Your kind adapts quickly. This frightens them." The Valhari had been fighting the Empire for centuries, but alone. They suggested an alliance. "There are others," Pathfinder explained. "Many species suffer under Imperial rule. Together, we might stand a chance." Dawson was cautious but interested. "What do you propose?" "Share technology. Coordinate attacks. The Empire doesn't expect cooperation between different species." Dr. Ward spoke up. "Their ship design is fascinating. Their approach to energy systems is completely different from ours or the Empire's." Captain Bennett was more practical. "Do you know safe places to hide? Our supplies are running low." "Yes," said Pathfinder. "We have hidden worlds, and we know others who hate the Empire as much as we do." That night, Dawson addressed the fleet. He explained the potential alliance with the Valhari. Some humans were suspicious, others were hopeful. "We cannot defeat the Empire alone," he told them. "But perhaps we don't have to. Earth taught us to value our differences and find strength in diversity. Now we must extend that principle to include other species." A new chapter in human history had begun. No longer just survivors, they were becoming something more. The spark that would ignite a galactic rebellion. The nebula glowed purple and blue, hiding what lay within. Gas clouds and dust made it impossible for Imperial sensors to see inside. This was why humans chose it for their secret base. New Haven grew in the heart of the nebula. It wasn't a planet, but a collection of ships and stations built from parts salvaged from wrecks. Over 3,000 humans lived there now. For the first time since Earth fell, children played without fear of sudden evacuation. Chief Engineer Maya Rodriguez supervised the construction of a new habitat section. She was good at making things work with limited materials. Today she was testing a new technology. "Power up the stealth field," she ordered. The technicians activated the device. The habitat section seemed to fade slightly, becoming harder to see. "Energy signature is masked," reported her assistant. Imperial scanners would think this was just another piece of space debris. Maya smiled. Her team had been studying Imperial detection technology for months. If this worked, human ships could move more freely without being spotted. In another part of New Haven, Colonel Frank Palmer trained soldiers for special missions. 20 men and women in dark suits practiced moving in zero gravity. They needed to be ready for boarding actions against Imperial ships. Again, Palmer ordered after a practice run. And remember, you'll be facing 4 armed opponents. They're stronger than you, but slower. Use that. The Special Forces trained 8 hours every day. They learned to use Imperial weapons taken from captured ships. They studied alien biology to know where different species were vulnerable. Dr. Elizabeth Campbell worked in the research lab nearby. Parts from Imperial weapons covered her workbench. She had been taking them apart and putting them back together in new ways. The problem with their weapons is the power regulation, she explained to her team. They value consistent output over adaptability. But if we modify the containment field like this, she adjusted something inside an Imperial rifle. When she fired it at the test target, the beam was stronger than before. Their technology is impressive, but they haven't improved it in centuries. They found something that works and stopped innovating. We won't make that mistake. Commander Jason Howard led the mission that changed everything. His team captured an Imperial cruiser without destroying it. They brought it back to New Haven intact. Inside its computers, they found a treasure: Imperial reports about humanity. Jason and Admiral Dawson read them together. "Look at this," Jason said, pointing to a particular report. "They've been studying us since before first contact." The report described humans as dangerously adaptive and technologically unpredictable. It noted with alarm how quickly humans had incorporated Imperial technology into their own systems. Species typically require 100 years to successfully reverse engineer Imperial technology. The report stated, humans have done so in under 5 years. Another section warned, unlike other species, humans show no consistent patterns in their technological development. They do not follow logical progression paths. They make unexpected connections between unrelated systems. Admiral Dawson realized something important. "They're afraid of us," he said. "Not because of our weapons or numbers, but because of how we think." The Empire had ruled for 50,000 years because they were predictable. They followed patterns. They expected all intelligent life to do the same. Humans didn't. "This changes our strategy," Dawson said. "We need to be more unpredictable, more creative. It's not just our strength, it's their weakness." That night, leaders from every human ship gathered to discuss new plans. The Valhari representatives joined them. For the first time, they talked not just about surviving, but about winning. "The Empire believes chaos is dangerous," Dawson told them. "So we'll bring chaos to their ordered galaxy." New Haven was no longer just a hiding place. It had become the center of resistance, and humanity was no longer running. They were preparing to fight back in ways the Empire could never predict. Admiral Catherine Powell had survived Earth's destruction. Her ship was badly damaged, but she and 30 crew members escaped in emergency pods. After drifting for weeks, they were found by a Valhari scout ship. Now, 7 years after Earth fell, Powell led diplomatic missions to other species oppressed by the Empire. She had a gift for making connections and building trust. Today, she met with the Carthari for the first time. They were silicon-based beings who looked like walking crystals. They communicated by changing the colors on their surfaces. "The Empire forces us to build their computers," the Carthari leader told Powell. His surface flashed blue and green as he spoke. "They think we are simple because we speak slowly. But we have been sabotaging their systems for centuries in ways too small to notice." Powell smiled. "We can help you do more than small sabotage." The Carthari joined the growing alliance. Their computational abilities were incredible. Within weeks, they improved the humans' communication encryption beyond anything the Empire could break. Next came the Seleth, beings made of light and thin membranes. They could bend light around themselves, becoming nearly invisible. For generations, the Empire had hunted them for sport. Now they became the Alliance's spies, moving through Imperial space unseen. Lieutenant Andrea Foster saw the potential in connecting all these different groups. She created the Phantom Network, a system of hidden communication relays throughout Imperial space. Each species adds something unique, she explained to Admiral Dawson. The Valhari know hidden routes between stars. The Carthuri encrypt our messages. The Seleth place and maintain the relays. And we provide the unpredictability the Empire can't counter. The network spread, connecting hundreds of resistance cells on different worlds. Information flowed freely for the first time in Imperial history. One day, an unexpected visitor arrived at New Haven. He was an Imperial officer, but he came alone in a small ship with his weapons powered down. "My name is Harold Turner," he said. "I've served the Empire for 15 years. I can't do it anymore." Turner had witnessed the massacre of an entire planet's population because they wouldn't provide enough resources to the Empire. The screams haunted his dreams. "Not all Imperials believe in what we're doing," he told the human leaders. "Some of us see the cruelty and waste. I want to help you." Turner brought knowledge of Imperial command structure, security protocols, and patrol schedules. This information was more valuable than 100 captured ships. The first real test of the Alliance came at the Graxis shipyards. The Empire built warships there, deep in their territory. No single resistance group could attack it alone. But together, they could. Human ships led the main assault, drawing Imperial defenses with seemingly reckless attacks. The Valhari used their knowledge of space currents to approach from an impossible angle. The Seleth infiltrated the station's control center. The Carthuri jammed communications. The Empire had never faced a coordinated attack from multiple species before. They didn't know how to respond. When it was over, the shipyard was destroyed. 30 Imperial warships under construction were lost. No Alliance ships were destroyed. News of the victory spread through the Phantom Network to all oppressed worlds. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Empire had suffered a major defeat. In his quarters, Admiral Dawson received reports from across the galaxy. More species were asking to join the Alliance. Imperial officers like Turner were defecting. Resistance cells were forming on 100 worlds. "It's working," said Captain Bennett, who had just returned from a mission. "The Empire has always ruled by making each species feel alone and helpless. That's ending now." Dawson nodded. "Humanity lost Earth, but we found something greater, a galaxy full of allies. The Empire broke the peace. They united us all against them." The tide was turning. After years of running and hiding, it was time for a bigger move. Operation Thunderstrike was ready to begin. 10 years had passed since Earth fell. Operation Thunderstrike was the biggest attack plan in human history. It would hit the Empire at 50 different points at exactly the same time. Admiral Peter Dawson stood on the bridge of the Vengeance *. Around him, ships from 7 different species formed the largest fleet the Resistance had ever gathered. "All ships report ready," said his communications officer. Dawson took a deep breath. "Send the signal. Begin Operation Thunderstrike." Across Imperial space, the attack began. The main target was the Empire's central communications hub, a massive station that connected all Imperial forces. The Imperial commanders weren't worried at first. They had faced human attacks before. But this time was different. Dr. Nathan Ward's shield-penetrating technology was used for the first time on a large scale. Human missiles passed through Imperial defenses like they weren't there. "Impossible," shouted an Imperial commander as his ship's shields failed to stop the attack. The second wave came from an unexpected direction. The Empire believed no ships could navigate the radiation field near the Cygnus pulsar, but the Valhari ships could, and they attacked from what the Empire thought was a safe direction. Meanwhile, Captain Lisa Bennett's intelligence operatives activated hidden programs in Imperial systems. Defense networks started failing. Ships lost contact with each other. "Your orders, sir," asked an Imperial officer aboard their command ship. "Follow Standard Defense Pattern 6, said the commander. That was exactly what the humans expected. They had studied Imperial battle plans for years. The Empire always followed the same patterns. Human ships did the opposite. They changed directions randomly. They split up, then came back together. Some ships pretended to be damaged, then attacked when Imperial vessels came to finish them off. The Imperial commanders couldn't understand the human strategy because there didn't seem to be one. But there was. The chaos was carefully planned to confuse and divide Imperial forces. The Carthari launched their part of the attack next. Their computer virus spread through Imperial networks, changing navigation data. Imperial ships started firing at each other by mistake. Commander Jason Howard led the most important mission of all. His Special Forces team, trained by Colonel Palmer, boarded the Imperial command vessel Eternal Dominion *. "Remember your training," Howard told his team as they cut through the ship's hull. Quick and quiet. They moved through the ship like shadows. Imperial soldiers fell before they could raise alarms. Within 20 minutes, Howard's team reached the bridge. The Imperial admiral turned in shock as humans burst onto his bridge. "This is impossible," he said. "Humanity specializes in the impossible," Howard replied. With the Eternal Dominion captured, the Resistance gained control of Imperial battle commands. They sent false orders to Imperial ships, sending them away from the real battle. But the greatest prize was still to come. Intelligence suggested the Emperor himself was visiting the sector. His personal flagship, larger than any other vessel in the galaxy, was detected near the communication hub. "All ships, focus on the Emperor's vessel," ordered Dawson. "We need it intact." Dr. Campbell's hybrid weapons proved devastating. They targeted the flagship's engines with precise strikes, leaving it unable to escape but otherwise undamaged. Boarding teams from 3 different species entered the enormous ship. The fight was hard, but the Emperor's guards weren't prepared for attackers who fought in such different ways. Finally, humans reached the Emperor's chamber. He was tall and thin with golden skin and 6 eyes. He had ruled the galaxy for 300 years. Now he was a prisoner. "You cannot win," the Emperor said. "The Empire has lasted 50,000 years. Your rebellion is nothing." But on screens around his chamber, he could see the battle. For the first time in Imperial history, they were losing. And not just losing, they were being completely outmaneuvered by species they had dismissed as primitive. The day ended with the greatest Imperial defeat ever recorded, and it was just the beginning. The Emperor's ship contained something more valuable than the Emperor himself: his command codes. With these codes, the Alliance could access every Imperial channel across the galaxy. "Ready to broadcast?" Admiral Dawson asked. Sophia Garcia nodded. She had survived the first Imperial attack 10 years ago. Now she controlled the most powerful communication system in the galaxy. "Broadcasting now," she said. On every Imperial planet, on every ship, on every station, screens came to life. The Alliance broadcast the truth the Empire had hidden for thousands of years. They showed recordings of Imperial massacres. They revealed how the Empire kept species fighting each other. They explained how Imperial technology had barely advanced in centuries because innovation was forbidden. "All thinking species deserve freedom," Admiral Powell said in the broadcast. "Today we take the first step toward a galaxy where we work together instead of fighting each other." While the broadcast continued, the Alliance launched the next phase: simultaneous rebellions on 50 worlds. For years, the Phantom Network had prepared resistance cells across the galaxy. Now they all rose up at once. Imperial forces couldn't respond to so many threats. They had never faced coordinated resistance before. Their rigid command structure fell apart without clear orders from above. Dr. Elizabeth Campbell's hybrid weapons were given to resistance fighters everywhere. These weapons combined human ingenuity with alien technology. Imperial shields couldn't stop them. They're designed to adapt to whatever they're fighting, Campbell explained to Alliance leaders, just like humanity adapted to survive. The biggest surprise came next. Using the Emperor's own security clearance, the Alliance unlocked the coordinates of Earth. The Empire had removed Earth from all star maps, trying to erase human history. "Send these coordinates to every allied species," ordered Powell. "It's time to reclaim our home." Across the galaxy, ships set course for the once forbidden planet. Some carried humans returning home. Others carried allies who wanted to help rebuild. 3 weeks later, thousands of ships gathered in Earth's orbit. The planet was still damaged from the Imperial attack years ago. Large areas remained uninhabitable. But it was still Earth. A ceremonial meeting took place on the surface, in what had once been a city called Geneva. Now it was just a flat plane of glass created by Imperial weapons. Admiral Powell stood before representatives from 100 alien species. Some floated in the air. Others needed special suits to breathe Earth's air. They were all different, but they had all suffered under the Empire. "The Empire united us through their cruelty," Powell said. "Now we will stay united through choice and friendship." The Emperor was brought to witness the ceremony. Imperial guards led him forward in restraints. He looked smaller now, without his fancy clothes and throne. "Why didn't you destroy us?" he asked Powell. "We would have destroyed you." Powell looked at him calmly. "Because then we'd be no better than you. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our adaptability. It's our capacity for forgiveness after justice is served." The Emperor would stand trial for his crimes. The Empire would be transformed into a cooperative alliance where all species had equal voices. Work began to heal Earth. Ships brought water from ice planets to refill the boiled oceans. Plant seeds from 100 worlds were planted to regrow forests. Alien technology helped clean radiation and poison from the soil. A memorial was built at the site of the ceremony. It listed the names of all the worlds that had suffered under the Empire. Earth's name was just one among many. "What happens now?" asked a young human woman who had been born in space and never seen Earth before. Admiral Dawson looked up at the stars. Ships from dozens of species filled the sky, working together to rebuild. "Now we create something better than the Empire," he said. "Something that will last because it's built on cooperation, not fear." The Galactic Empire had shattered the peace. Humanity's response was indeed unforgettable, not for its vengeance, but for its vision of a better future for all.